Are you ready for an amazing sight in the night sky? Saturn, the planet with the beautiful rings, is about to make its closest approach to Earth this year. On September 8, 2024, Saturn will be at opposition, which means it'll be bigger and brighter than usual. This is a great chance for everyone, from curious beginners to space experts, to see Saturn in all its glory. The planet's famous rings will be tilted just right, making them easy to spot. Let's dive into what makes this event unique and how you can enjoy it. Understanding Saturn's opposition. Saturn's opposition happens about once a year. This is when Earth is right between the Sun and Saturn, and we call it opposition because Saturn is on the opposite side of Earth from the Sun. During opposition, you can see Saturn all night long. It rises in the east when the Sun sets in the west, then it sets in the west when the Sun rises in the east. Opposition is special because Saturn is closest to the Earth at this time. It's still very far away, about 746 million miles or 1.2 billion kilometers from us. This is the nearest Saturn ever gets to Earth. Because Saturn is so close and fully lit by the Sun, it looks very bright. Its brightness is measured as positive 0.6 magnitude. You can easily see it without a telescope because it seems like a bright golden star in the Aquarius constellation. The date of Saturn's opposition changes a bit each year. It's usually about 2 weeks later than the year before. Earth and Saturn travel around the Sun at different times. Earth takes about 365.25 days, while Saturn takes about 29.5 Earth years. Astronomers and people who take pictures of space really like opposition. It's the best time to see Saturn's famous rings and the stripes on its surface. The planet looks bigger and brighter, so studying and photographing is easier. A closer look at Saturn. Saturn is the second biggest planet in our solar system after Jupiter. It's known for its beautiful rings. These rings are made mostly of ice, with some rocks and dust. They start 4,120 miles above Saturn's middle, which is around 6,630 kilometers, and go to 75,000 miles, which is 120,700 kilometers. Right now, we can see the rings tilted at an angle of between 3.5 to 4.5 degrees. Even with a small telescope, you can see a big gap in the rings called the Cassini division. It's 3,000 miles, which is 4,800 kilometers wide. A scientist named Giovanni Domenico Cassini found this gap in 1675. Saturn is a giant. It weighs 95 times more than Earth, but it's not very dense. In fact, if you had a giant bathtub, Saturn would float in it because it's lighter than water. The air around Saturn is mostly made of hydrogen and helium, like Jupiter, but Saturn's clouds are less colorful. If you look carefully with a good telescope, you might see some faint stripes or even a storm in Saturn's sky. Saturn has more moons than any other planet, 146 that we know of. Most are too small to see from Earth, but the biggest one, Titan, can be seen with a small telescope. Titan is bigger than the planet Mercury and is the only moon we know that has its own thick air and lakes on its surface. But these lakes aren't water, they're filled with a gas called methane that is turned into a liquid. When we look at Saturn now, we see a whole system working together. The big planet, its rings, and its moons. It's like watching a beautiful dance in space. And it helps us understand more about our solar system. Let's take a quick look at the space and moon-themed items from Gooey Gestures before we go on with the video. If you really like space, you can find some great stuff here to show off your interest in the cosmos. You can find the link in the description below. Take a look at these cool space accessories. Alright, now let's get back to the video. Observing Saturn. Saturn is in a special position called opposition right now. This makes it a great time to look at the planet in the sky. You can see Saturn whether you're an expert or just starting in astronomy. Using just your own eyes, you can find Saturn easily during opposition. Look to the southeast after the sun goes down. You should see a bright golden light that doesn't flicker like other stars. This steady light is Saturn. It doesn't twinkle because it's closer to us than stars, so it looks like a tiny disk instead of a point of light. If you have binoculars, you'll see even more. You want to be able to see Saturn's rings clearly, but the planet will look slightly oval because of them. You might also see Titan. Saturn's biggest moon is a faint light near the planet. A telescope gives you the best view of Saturn. Even a small telescope with a 60mm opening can show Saturn's rings, though they might look like ears on the sides of the planet. A bigger telescope, around 150mm, can show the gap in the rings called the Cassini division and maybe some of Saturn's cloud stripes. When using a telescope, it's important to be patient. Let your eyes get used to the dark and give your telescope time to adjust to the outside temperature. This prevents heat from distorting the image, and start with a low-power lens to find Saturn, then switch to stronger lenses. For people who like to take pictures of space, Saturn's opposition is a great chance to get detailed photos. You can attach a DSLR camera to a telescope to take impressive pictures. One good technique is to take many short exposure photos and combine them to reduce noise and increase detail. Remember, even though opposition marks when Saturn is closest to Earth, you can still get good views of the planet for several weeks before and after this date. So don't worry if you miss the exact date, you have plenty of time to see this amazing sight in the sky. The changing face of Saturn. Saturn's rings tilt, changing how we see them from Earth. This happens in a cycle that takes about 15 years. Right now, we can see the rings well because they're tilted between 3.5 and 4.5 degrees towards us. But soon, they'll start to look thinner. By March 2025, the rings will be edge-on to us. This means we won't be able to see them for about a week. Sadly, we can't watch this rare event because Saturn will be too close to the Sun in the sky, which would be dangerous to look at. After that week, we'll start seeing the rings again, this time on their bottom side. People who have watched Saturn for many years find this exciting because the planet looks very different as the rings change. Saturn also has seasons, as Earth does. But because it takes Saturn 29.5 years to go around the Sun, each season lasts about 7.5 Earth years. These long seasons, plus the changing ring tilt, can cause interesting things to happen. For example, there's something called the opposition surge. This is when the rings suddenly look much brighter because the Sun shines directly on them when Saturn is opposite to the Sun in our sky. Saturn's rings and beyond. Scientists use information from NASA's Cassini spacecraft, which studied Saturn until 2017. They found out that tiny pieces of ice from the rings are falling onto Saturn because of gravity, like a very slow rain of ice. If this continues at the same speed, the rings might completely disappear in 100 million to 300 million years. That might sound like a very long time to us, but for the universe, it's quite short. This discovery shows us that our solar system is always changing. It reminds us that every time we look at Saturn, we see a moment. The Saturn we see now is different from what people saw long ago, and it will be different for people in the future. When we look at Saturn during an opposition, which is when Earth passes between the Sun and Saturn, we're not just seeing a faraway planet, we're also reminded of our place in the solar system. As Earth moves around the Sun, we pass by each outer planet, helping us understand where we are in space. A cosmic invitation. On September 8, 2024, Saturn will be in opposition. This means it will be directly opposite the Sun from Earth's point of view. Everyone can enjoy this event, whether you are an expert astronomer or have never really looked at the night sky before. Saturn's opposition shows us how precisely the planets move. It reminds us of space's size and how long cosmic events take. It's a chance to go outside, look up, and feel our planet moving past Saturn. You can watch this event in different ways. You can use a telescope, binoculars, or just your own eyes. When things on Earth seem messy and unpredictable, Saturn's opposition shows that space follows set rules. The planets keep moving in their paths, giving us beautiful sights. When looking at Saturn, consider where you fit in the universe. Remember that we are all part of big cycles in space, just like the planets moving around the Sun. Get ready for this event. If you have stargazing equipment, prepare it. Saturn's opposition isn't just about astronomy, it's a chance to wonder about space, learn new things, and feel connected to the universe. Take advantage of this opportunity to see one of the most beautiful sights in our solar system. Saturn will be waiting for you to see it. That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss any coming updates. Thank you.